Welcome to the Filmcast review of Project Hail Mary. I'm going to read the plot summary of this movie from IMDb. Science teacher Ryland Grace wakes up alone on a spaceship light years from Earth. As his memory returns, he uncovers a mission to stop a mysterious substance killing the sun and save Earth, end quote. Now look, before we get to our review, we have to say that there is a major plot detail that is revealed in all the trailers and all the marketing for this film. That's major. It's a huge part of the movie. And so we really can't do a review without talking about what that is. But if you are extremely spoiler averse and you don't want to know anything about the movie, then I would just suggest go watch the movie and then come, bookmark this and then come back, listen to the review.
Don't go to any social media sites. Don't go anywhere where you see video ads.
That's right. That's right.
It's out there.
It's on all the video ads. It's everywhere. So, but yes, we will be talking about this major plot detail that is a huge part of the movie and is in all the marketing for the film. So all that said, let's talk about our overall thoughts on Project Hail Mary. Jeff Cannata, let's start with you today. What did you think of Project Hail Mary?
Well, Dave, I guess you could say what I thought of Project Hail Mary is best summed up in the form of a limerick.
Well, let's hear it, Jeff.
It seems like an act of defiance to make art that celebrates science. I have a few nits, but do like that it's a love letter to social reliance.
Nice.
I read this book when it was released. I had also read The Martian before that film. I like Andy Weir's writing in certain respects. I don't think his strong suit is people or interpersonal relationships.
Characters.
Yeah.
Characters. Yeah.
He's a technical writer who does a great job at the technical writing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he has brilliant sort of procedural drama. And that is what I come to these his books for, and these films is there is just a delightful procedural drama in that you have smart people with difficult problems thinking through them and coming to clever solutions. And I am always down for that. That is one of my favorite things to see or read. I genuinely enjoy the MacGyvering of problems, right? I love that. And these, it's hard for me to even talk about Project Hail Mary without relating it to The Martian. I do feel like they are very much complementary works or two sides of the same coin. And what I was kind of referencing in my limerick with the social reliance thing is that my take here is that in a lot of ways, The Martian is a work about self-reliance, about what one can do when one is forced to be on their own and have to do it by yourself. And of course, the main character of The Martian, interacts with NASA scientists and gets help in that regard. But I think my takeaway from reading that book and from watching that film and loving them is, oh man, you can do it. It's that very, I think, affirming notion of on a life raft, don't give up. There's a way out of this. And it's so that self-reliance, that like pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and just getting to the hard work and figuring it out. And it's thrilling, right? That's what I loved about The Martian. In Project Hail Mary, the setup is very similar in that you have a singular human being adrift in space and ostensibly alone and must be self-reliant. But where Project Hail Mary goes, I think, and what it underscores is how we as humans really need the social aspect. It's a social reliance is you can't do it yourself, or sometimes, needing others is not a bad thing. And I think the journey for this character is, there's a lot of him trying to ask himself, why would I put myself in harm's way? What is there out there for me? And, a major theme of this movie is, what do we do for others, right? And who do we need to do that along the way? And I loved that about it. I also think this movie is beautiful, just gorgeous. And it doesn't look like other space movies. It doesn't look like Gravity or 2001 or any of the other, big, glorious space movies. It carves out its own unique look, its own unique identity, visual identity, and it's full of color. Like the movie is just awash in color, and I loved it. It is sumptuous. It's gorgeously shot. Gosling is great. He's charming and self-deprecating and easily relatable. And this is not an easy movie to carry because you sort of have to want to hang out with this guy a lot. And you know, it takes an actor that you want to hang out with, you know, and that can sort of be alone in a room and be interesting just by themselves. And that's not easy. And he does it with aplomb. I mean, he's great. And, you know, so much of how this movie works, like the visual effects are great. I never doubted that things were real that he was interacting with. You know, there is a big aspect of this movie, as you said, that I did not know when I read the book, and I loved discovering. It just was, I could not believe the book was about this, because it takes a long time for the book to sort of get to the place that it's about.
Mm-hmm.
And not knowing that was pretty awesome. And as you said, the marketing of this movie has just decided everybody should know that. And it bums me out a little bit because that discovery in reading the novel felt so amazing to arrive at and be like, is this really happening? Right? Is this what the rest of this book is about? And it was, and it is. The movie, I will tell you, is very faithful to the novel. I mean, they leave out a lot of, you know, Andy Weir is a very, as you said, Devindra, very technical writer. It's a hard science book in that it is grounded in real concepts. Of course, there's a lot of stuff in here that is impossible, or as yet impossible. And so it is a science fiction book. There are fictional concepts, but it feels very grounded in real ideas and real notions and real physics. And a lot of the nuts and bolts of that you get in the book is sort of hand waved away. And most of my nits, which we'll get into in spoilers, are in that vein of like this movie. I had a hard time. Some of the things that get really hand waved in this movie feel hard to swallow, where it's like, oh, you're just going to tell us that works. Okay. I mean, I guess I will suspend my disbelief, but we'll get to it in spoilers. But there's stuff that's there. But what's really interesting to me about the book is how you really get to learn why this stuff is plausible, if not possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most of that is missing in a movie, and of course it would be. Like, that's common, right? A movie doesn't have time to get into that kind of nuts and bolts. But what is here is thrilling, is fun, is at times funny, and it's a really good time. I just was pushed out of it sometimes by the yada yada yadas. Some, I think, major things that you're forced to swallow of like, oh, okay, we're just gonna skip over the part where that's really difficult and near impossible to do, and we're just saying we're doing it. But if you can swallow that, I mean, the movie is a great time, and I got emotional at a number of things. I mean, it is very authentic to the book, even to the like bonkers ending of the book. I was like, there's no way they're going to do the ending of the book in the movie, and they do the ending of the book in the movie, which is pretty wild to me. This is a pretty big thumbs up from me, even if I do have some, I think, nagging nits that hold it back from being like, oh, it's going to be on my top 10 of the year. I don't think it's going to make my top 10 of the year, but it is a easy movie to love and recommend. And one more thing, sorry, I know I'm going long here, but I do like the fact that this movie presupposes a world in which seeing evidence of a major threat to global survival, we as a global community would come together and leverage all of our resources to the solving of that problem. Like that hopefulness, and that's just a presupposition that comes in. Like, the movie doesn't even do any heavy lifting to get there. It just says, and where we know what would happen is a bunch of people would just choose not to believe it was happening. And just
there'd be a lot of people profiting off of convincing people that it wasn't happening.
For sure.
That's right.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's right. But I love that we can live in the fictional world even for 2.5 hours, where the best and the brightest and governments of the world would go, hey, this is an actual problem and we need to move on it and do something about it.
Yeah.
Interesting that you said it's not going to make your top 10. Jeff, we have barely reviewed 10 movies this year already.
Dude,
We'll make your top 10 if not this movie.
Nirvana the band, the show, the movie.
Sure.
And good night, or good luck, have fun, don't die.
There are 8 slots left, Jeff.
Yeah.
8 slots left.
8 slots left. So but you're confident. You're like, it's not even going to be one of those 8.
I just don't. I mean, it might.
Yeah.
But I suspect there's going to be.
And also Q4, there's a lot of good stuff usually. So yeah. All right. Well, anyway, Devindra Hardwar, your thoughts on Project Hail Mary?
So it turns out Phil Lord and Chris Miller sure can make a space movie, huh? Only an idiot would not allow these guys to make a space movie. Man, sure. Luckily, nobody has done that, right?
You mean a movie in the stars?
A movie in the stars. Yeah.
Where there's a solo guy? Nailed it.
Nailed it. I think this is close to perfect as a blockbuster can be. I love this movie. I also think it's my favorite movie of the year by far. I think this has, just like The Martian.
Wow.
This is a repeat of The Martian, by the way, because The Martian I think was a much better movie than it was the book. I cannot stand to read Andy Weir's writing. I'm sorry. I love his technical chops. I love his ability to piece those aspects of things together. But it takes a Drew Goddard, who I think is one of the best screenwriters alive right now, to humanize it, to make them characters, to add humor. That line that we think about a lot from The Martians, I'm going to science the shit out of this, that's Drew Goddard. That's not Andy Weir. So the combination of Drew Goddard coming back, being like, I know what to do with Andy Weir's writing, and Phil Lord and Chris Miller, guys who never miss to me. They know what to do, and they're good storytellers. Perfect combination. And then you've got Gosling, who I've always liked, but in this movie is basically 2 hours, over 2 hours of Ryan Gosling in a spaceship, maybe with a little buddy for a little bit of that, but it's 2 hours of Ryan Gosling in a spaceship. The movie's it's 2.5 hours long, slightly more than 2.5 hours long. So he really has to sell this, right? It really comes down to the star power and the inherent appeal of this guy. And man, does Gosling knock it out of the park. I just love every aspect of this movie. And I'll start with the thing you kind of ended with, Jeff. I think the idea that, this is a global catastrophe that everybody can see, all countries are looking at. The idea that every country on Earth would get together and just be like, okay, we have things right now that people are being bullshit about, but hey, this thing is clearly dimming the sun. It's clearly doing something. We have 30 years before humanity is doomed, right? Let's do something together to make this work. Let's have this last ditch effort. I love all those scenes of groups of scientists trying to throw the ideas around. That bit that's in the trailer, we don't know. They've done this so many times. They've made it into a mantra. I love that collaboration. And this movie is ultimately about that sort of thing too. It is figuring shit out on your own, like The Martian, but it's also sometimes we need help. Maybe that's from an alien friend. Maybe that's from wider humanity too. It's a thing that I think about quite often, and a thing that makes me not very religious too, is this idea that we are all we've got. We are all we've got. So we're either going to survive this together, or this all falls apart because we can't work together. To me, that's a fundamental belief I have. And I think this movie just really, really speaks to that. So I think it's incredibly well made. I think it's compelling. It is occasionally kind of dumb in a way that is this isn't really a spoiler, but there are things revealed this thing that is dimming the sun. We don't know what this is. It's going straight to Venus. Wonder what that's about. All of the world's scientists can't think of a top reason that may be a thing. It takes a security guard who's working with our guy to be like, hey, how about this thing everybody widely knows about Venus, huh? That sort of thing. Where it's you're shortcutting us to get the solution there, but it's kind of that's the stuff that hits my belief or my suspension of disbelief for this movie. But it's rare. A couple of those things happen. It's fine. It's really compelling. It's really well made. Sandra Hüller is amazing.
So good.
She's so good. And the creature, I mean, hey, we were introduced to an alien named Rocky, and we're going to talk more about that. But my God, everything, like, how do you even make that work? Tremendous work. I think this is the best movie of the year for me by far. This is clearly going to be a Best Picture like nominee next year too. Like, I think it has a real shot. And Ryan Gosling too. Like, this is such a thing that hinges entirely on him. I had read about like how he requested different ways of like having Lord and Miller direct him. Like they there was a lot of earpiece work in here where they would pipe in things to him and the other actors directly rather than shouting it from like wherever the directors are. And I think that kind of shows like there's some like great spontaneity in these performances, especially with him and with how he interacts with his little friend too. So we'll talk about all that. I freaking love this movie.
Well, I want to underscore what you said too. I do think there's an argument to be made that the movie versions of these two books are better than the books.
Yeah,
like I said, you lose a lot of the real crunchy nuts and bolts stuff that I think is really interesting, and how the fiction is built on hard science. I really enjoy that stuff. But you're absolutely right that almost this movie has a lot of flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And the flashbacks in the book are really clunky and kind of poorly written, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And they are much, much better. Like
very compelling in the movie. Yeah,
human interaction in this is much improved from how it is written in the novel, I think.
Yeah. All right, a few brief thoughts, and then let's get to spoilers. So, Devindra has referenced it. It's in the trailers. We're going to talk about it now, but a huge part of the movie has to do with Ryan Gosling's character meeting an alien creature, who he then names Rocky, and interacting with that alien creature to try to figure out what's going on with the dimming of the sun and trying to save their respective planets.
A creature with no eyes and no mouth. None of the shortcuts can use to make it a cutie.
No face.
The creature.
And I have to say, like, I think I was shocked at how early on the creature is introduced. It's like a quarter of the way into the film, and you're already, already the film has already introduced this idea of, hey, the planet's going to die in 20, 30 years. And then it's like, by the way, we made first contact, and, the alien talks, it's made out of rocks, and it talks in this way. And I think that the movie pulls off this magic trick of making this alien creature into something that is that you can actually feel emotions for, that you can understand the relationship between the two of them, and the way that it plays out this relationship, I think, is very charming and very well done. This relationship experiences some real challenges, and you really are emotionally invested, and that's like the biggest accomplishment of this movie, in my opinion, right? Like, is that it allows you to invest in this relationship between Ryan Gosling and this pile of rocks. And I haven't felt this much for rocks since Everything Everywhere All at Once, right? Like,
to be fair, he is a rock crab because he has crabby arms. It's sort of like the thing where everything will evolve to crab form at some point. Like, rock crab doesn't even have the little eyes that we think that makes crabs cute. Yeah.
Putting that aside, Jeff, I think there's a lot of truth in what you're describing. Honestly, this movie feels like it comes out of the 90s, a time of optimism, a time of belief in American exceptionalism. It's kind of like a science version of The West Wing, almost, right? Where it's like...
Except the entire world is involved. Like, that's the thing. You think of, like, Armageddon. Armageddon is a 90s movie.
Okay, that's fair.
NASA's got to save the world, okay?
I mean, you say that, but the opening scene of this movie kills off the other non-Americans on the ship. It's really Ryan Gosling. It did
require all their work to get here, though. Like, it did require the full resources of planet Earth to get to this point.
Fair enough.
I think that counts for something.
Fair enough. You're right. They're not completely ignored. But I felt bad. Like, why can't Ken Leung be alive? Like, you find out in the first 2 minutes of the movie that all the other ones have died. It's just Ryan Gosling.
And he's like Ken Leung, an actor I love quite a bit from what's it called? Industry. Yeah. I love him so much. He gets very little dialogue here, but man, does he tells you so much about that character. Love him so much. Yeah.
I was sad at the lack of Ken Leung in the film, but
Yes, aren't we all?
yeah, Jeff, I think there's a couple different ways to view the tone of the film, right? One is as like this beacon of hope that like, hey, humans can work together to solve the problems that face our species. We can, when confronted with a real threat, we can put the best minds in existence on this planet together and help to create innovative solutions that can stop utter catastrophe. And this movie is a sign that is a possibility, and we will state it, and hopefully people will watch it, and they will also believe. That's one way of looking at Project Hail Mary. Another way of looking at it is that this is kind of the, shall we say, dying gasp of an empire that has long past its prime, and which is currently experiencing a brain drain of scientists because of how hostile the current administration has been to actual scientists and researchers and academics, and that this time of the American empire is over, and that this is just propaganda that is trying to kind of attempting to remind people that we were once a great nation.
I think you could describe Interstellar more this way than this. Like Interstellar is a movie where, oh my God, NASA is still here. NASA will save us all. NASA, great.
Well, I'm taking more of a metatext. That's in the text of the movie. I'm taking more of a metatextual view of it.
You're thinking metatextual, but I'm like, that's literally the text of Interstellar.
Yeah, that's fair.
That, oh my God, NASA. Secret NASA will save us all. I love Interstellar. But it is kind of hilarious.
I do think it's just worth like considering the dissonance, right, between the tone of this film and also real life in many ways, right?
Sure.
And what function a movie like this serves in that context, right? So
it does seem to me like a case of write the reality you wish it as you wish it to be.
As you wish it to be.
It is kind of funny because what this movie presents to us is hope, and it is funny to see Dave be like, "What? This is like the vision of the 90s. We don't have hope anymore. What is this propaganda of hope?"
All right,
no, it's hope. It's purely hope.
Okay, that's pretty rich coming from you, Devindra. The person who is one of the least hopeful people on this podcast.
You love the cinema misery, and I'm like the thing about this movie.
No question about that.
I am, if anything, I am the one who's trying to find the glimmer of hope in wherever we can. Okay, because but this movie does present this idea of hopefulness. Yes, it does seem dissonant now, for sure. I will say this though, Devindra. Yeah.
I think that this movie's popularity right now, it's been extremely well reviewed. It's a huge box office success. Is this a postmodern movie, right? Like, are people fed up with the cynicism of a lot of millennial cinema, and they're like, hey guys, it's okay to be cringe again. It's okay to be earnest again. Right?
I hope so. I think the pendulum swings, right? That's what happens.
It's a sign of the pendulum swinging that way. So anyway, go ahead, Jeff.
And I think that fiction is often a bellwether for, societal yearning. Really, it's where do we want to be in our escapism? We want to be in the place that feels most different from where we are in reality, right? Yeah. And I think that sometimes it's a bellwether for our worst fears and our I think there's been so much post-apocalyptic science fiction in the last 10 to 15 years, and a lot of that comes from people's genuine misgivings about the state of the world. But I sense a pendulum swing, and I think it is. Sure. I think it's real. I think it's the book that we're reading on, or that we just finished reading on my book club, is called the Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and in the Wikipedia for that book, it says that it is of a subgenre called hope punk. Hope punk.
Hope punk.
Maybe hope is the real punk rock these days, right?
I've said for a long time wholesomeness is punk rock because it's just so counterculture. Being wholesome is so
it
counterculture.
has become anti-mainstream, unfortunately, right? And so, a couple of other thoughts, and then let's get to spoilers. First of all, I do just want to say I do just appreciate that in imagining what an alien species would look like, it's just so different than any other alien species and ship appears in most science fiction, right? A lot of the science fiction is like they're humanoids and they make ships like us, but with different, it's like the Star Trek model of aliens.
Ears on this guy.
Different ears, different eyebrows on this one, and this is just like, hey, in reality, if there was another life form that formed in a non-Earth-like atmosphere or situation, it would just be vastly different in how it operates. And I appreciate
what's missing from the movie that is, I think, so fun is like there's actual kind of dissection of why that would be. And we should wait for spoiler. I'll tell them. I'll talk more in spoilers.
So there's that. I do want to say I enjoyed the look of the film as well. In particular, the main characters encounter some pretty cool cosmic stuff during the course of the film. I think it is awe-inspiring. Like it reminds me of how I felt when watching science fiction for the first time. Like, wow, it's a big universe out there, and there's really
IMAX.
Cool, amazing stuff. IMAX presentation is great. On that note, also, Jeff, you said that this movie is not like it doesn't look like other movies like Gravity, but here's where it is like Gravity. Uses similar sound design, right? There's no sound in space in this movie, which I think is really cool. And there was the same deal with Gravity too, where the only sound you could hear was like vibrations in the person's suit or in the ship or whatever. So anyway, so some things I wanted to praise about the film. I think the downsides of the movie are like I never found Ryan Gosling as a character to be particularly rich in his inner life personally. Like I just didn't the movie I think, or the plot of the film doesn't do a great job of giving Ryan Gosling a lot of stuff to invest in. From usually a movie will be like he's got a pregnant wife at home or something like that, and this movie doesn't do any of that. Does not even do close to.
I want my archetypes to lead on.
But the point is that it doesn't. I think the point is that he finds the thing because he doesn't have any of that.
Yes,
right. So
that's part of it. Yeah,
and I'll just say I don't know that quite worked for me, but I understand that like.
I would have liked to have more time with this character outside of this emergency situation, right? Because the movie opens with him in space trying to figure out what the hell happens. Like, that's not where you want to wake up from a severe coma. Like, where am I? Oh, I am light years away from Earth. My crew is dead. What am I doing? Oh, a mission that has no way in hopes of succeeding. Great. I'm screwed.
Anyway. So that was, I would say, the biggest weakness of the movie for me is like Ryan Gosling, not the performance, which I think is great, but the character. Anyway, let's talk about it in spoilers. So let's get the spoilers for Project Hail Mary starting right now. All right, Jeff, you had some beefs with how the movie ended, or some of the things that hand waves away. Some of the things.
We get to pure verbal communication between these two species very, very fast,
very quickly.
And and some of the words that are used, you go,
yeah, how did they come up with that?
We took the time to figure out a way to communicate to each other words like hope, or like, really? Right. How did you do that? How did you do that with little stick figures and pantomimes? It is it really doesn't care. It's like, we're in a movie, we need our character to talk.
Yeah,
let's do. And there's no at first it's like, oh, we're talking through the translator here of the computer is hearing your hums, and we built this system. And at a certain point, we just abandon that. Like, we don't even show you the computer being present. It's just happening, no problem. And also the computer is not going to act your words. If it's just translating them, whatever.
I did have that thought of, wow, they've really gotten complex language very quickly. And I think you're right that there is interesting dramatic territory to be mined in, like, hey, we have no word for hope here, or whatever. But they decided not to do that, and I respect that as a decision. But I kind of had the same thought as you. But it didn't bother me that much. Basically.
Well, because they mine a number of times of understand? Don't understand that word. Don't understand that word. And it's like, well, there's 40 words he said before that you probably wouldn't have understood either. Because because he goes, the one that got me the most was, that is my mate. And he's like, you have a mate? And it's like, okay, if he doesn't have a mate, at what point did you go over the word for mate? It's like, in what context did you bring up the notion of, let's figure out what your word for mate is, because I have a word for mate, but let's not talk about mates because I'm assuming you don't have, like, it's so those are the things that bother me.
Yeah.
The other thing that really bothered me is that we go through all this effort of establishing the fact that Rocky only perceives the world through echolocation and cannot view things in two dimensions. And then we have all these scenes where we're in our crazy video room showing you surfing and things, and Rocky's like, wee! And it's like, he can't see any of that.
But can't he hear it though? He can hear it though, probably, right? So,
but he's reacting to the visual of the Rocky movie. He's reacting to like, why would you bring him? There's literally a shot where Ryan Gosling is walking up to a video screen of trees going, these are trees. And that you have established that the Rock can't see that shit.
Yeah, that's a little strange. But
I have a few nitpicks like that too, mainly because like the Rocky species, how do you get to space, deep space, and not understand radiation?
It's deep space and not in the book. Okay. That is deeply explained in the book.
And also relativity. I'm like, you guys made a really big spaceship. I feel like you have those core concepts.
They literally cannot perceive light. And so from not being able to see light, they don't get to radiation because there's an entire spectrum of things that they're just blind to. And so there's at no point in their evolutionary journey did they ever have to reckon with the notion of radiation. So those are things that are like just dropped in the movie that are backed up, by science in the book.
Okay. So shockingly, none of those things bothered me at all. So I didn't. I kind of just bought that. It was very like, hey, this is very accelerated. They went from barely understanding words to now they're having full blown conversations very quickly. So whatever.
The computer model is just growing really quickly. It's just adapting.
They must have some AI or Claude going on in there to do that. But I will say this, Jeff. I think the thing that really I found to be not particularly satisfying was the kind of reveal of how it all plays out at the end, right? So the whole movie, you're wondering, how did Ryan Gosling get on the ship? You see all the flashbacks, and I think the flashbacks are really well done. But the whole time you're like, there's no way that this gets from what we see in the flashback to Ryan Gosling actually being on the ship. And then the reveal of how it plays out, I think is like pretty cool, but they never really grapple with that. Like, there's no grappling with that, in my opinion. There's no like reckoning of what
he
all
should be
that
a little
meant.
pissed off or something, or have some grudge about it. Yeah,
or like acceptance of what's going on. Or I think it ultimately was acceptance, but it's like, and I believe my understanding is in the book that it's explained that she gave him some amnesia-inducing drug. And that's why he has amnesia when he wakes up at the beginning. And that by the time he figures out what's going on, he'll be so committed to the mission that everything's going to be okay. But it just felt like a huge character moment for this character to be forced onto the ship. Yeah. And my understanding, too, by the way, as far as I could tell, as the flashbacks are showing in the movie, that is like my understanding is that is how Ryan Gosling's character, Ryland Grace, is remembering them. He's like remembering them in a kind of linear fashion, right? So like as time goes on, he's remembering more about how he got to this place. And then finally at the end, he realizes, oh, they fucking forced me onto the ship and against my will.
But what are you going to do now? I'm locked into it, right?
Which I think is a really... Oh, wow, that's terrifying. And also, I can imagine that that's how that would actually play out in real life. And also, I wish that there was more of an impact of that on Ryan Gosling's character in the present day.
Yeah.
I can understand you wanting that. I feel like what we're supposed to take from that is the character arc is I didn't have any confidence in myself to do the job.
Mhm.
And then when thrust into the job,
Right.
he rises to the occasion and has already risen to the occasion. And the whole, I think the where this is juxtaposed with The Martian, honestly, is in all of, in the, I think it is Ken Liu who says, doesn't he say, the way to be brave is to not be brave for yourself, but to find somebody else to be brave for.
Yeah.
And I think
that unlocks what he does. Yeah.
That is the entire arc of this character. The Ryan Gosling character is, there's no reason for me to take this risk. There's no reason. And, Sandra Hüller says, don't you think of literally all the children that are going to die? And he's like, I can't, that's not motivating to me. I can't even handle that.
He's a nerdy science teacher who can't wear his glasses right. That's who he is, right?
Right. And what he finds is this little alien friend is his somebody, right? And so by the time he realizes he was put on this ship against his will, he has already decided that he would have gotten on this ship had he known. He's already made the journey, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think there's like, oh, what did they do? It's, I was supposed to be here already. And I realized that she was right in doing this to me because now I've done it,
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair enough, Jeff. I think that's fair. And I don't know. I guess I appreciated the relationship between Ryan Gosling and the alien buddy. And I guess I just, I found it hard to relate with a guy who is more connected to the alien than other humans.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what's so gobsmacking to me about the very end of the book. Is he literally goes to live with the aliens? Like, that is crazy.
It's crazy.
I do think like they really fast forwarded through a lot of plot developments in the last 10, 15 minutes of the film, right? Where it's like he's on the way home. You think oh, the movie's over. And then he says, actually, Rocky's going to die unless I turn around. So I'm going back, saves Rocky. And then they end up going back to Rocky's planet. And it's like, that all happens in 10 minutes. It's like, wow. I would assume in the book that takes a longer time to play out.
No, not really. I mean, it is still this sort of, post-climax is, the decision is, I'm going to go and I can't let this little buddy die just to save myself.
Yeah.
And so he literally makes the choice he couldn't make.
Right. When he was on Earth.
On Earth.
Right.
Right. Is that he's going to go die in space to save someone else. That's what, but then he doesn't have to die in space. He gets to live in a biodome of their creation.
Beautiful biodome. And also it feels so fitting for a scientist like him too. It's like, nobody else has ever done this before. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to learn as much as I can about this planet, and then I'll get home eventually. Because when he gets back to Earth, it's not going to be a good time. It's going to be. It's still going to be Earth trying to fix itself a little bit.
There's a point at which this character, though, let's be honest. There's a point at which this character attempts to fuck a rock, right? on the long tail of this story, at some distant moment, he fucks a rock, right?
Okay, that's not where my head was going. Honestly, first of all,
they can build all sorts of structures.
One thing I really appreciate, Jeff, about this film, and that I do think is worth putting on film is the idea of science and knowing science being aspirational. We live in such an anti-intellectual age, and the idea and that's literally the very final note of the film is on the planet he's teaching the young Iridians science, right? And it's
the kids. It's the kids.
Yeah,
I put this in my Engadget review, but this is the sort of movie kids watch and be like, I want to do that.
Exactly.
I want to be a scientist. And also, it's not that hard for kids to look around and see certain doom heading right towards us. Dave, you consider me cynical, but I think the title of the AI doc, the idea of being an apocalyptimist, is kind of more where I'm at.
I've always called myself an apocalyptimist.
I've called myself a skeptical optimist because you got to have hope. You have to have hope. Because otherwise we don't do anything. If you're purely fatalistic, nothing gets accomplished, and we don't actually build that better future. You don't have to think it's all going to be sunshine and lollipops and easy. That's where the skeptical part of me comes in. But it's like, you have to have that hope. You have to have that drive to build something better. Otherwise, what happens? Like it all falls apart. We lose everything basically. So that's where I am. And I think this movie is so hopeful for kids. I kind of want to take my daughter to see it, even though it's 2.5 hours in a movie theater in a movie that's not about like the franchise she already loves. I'll try to make that happen. And also,
that'll be a core memory for her, man.
Well, it will be.
See it. Yeah.
I'm going to try to do that. Yeah,
I totally agree. I wish I had taken my son. And this, apropos to other conversations we've had recently on the podcast, it's, I think, really a shame that this movie is PG-13. Mm-hmm. And I know why. It's because at one point, one person says the word heroin in a weird context that shouldn't have flagged the movie for PG-13.
Well, also the final action scene, I would say, is like pretty scary. Personally,
it's a little scary,
with the ship and the thing, and he's dangling on the outside of the ship.
Scarier than Raiders of the Lost Ark.
No, but
you know what I mean?
Yeah. No. I totally. What I saw was a film that felt very appropriate.
Should be a PG movie. Yeah. I think it's weirdly the case that PG-13 is a more attractive rating for mainstream movies these days than because it PG indicates it doesn't have any teeth. But so I don't think anybody would fight for this movie being PG. But this is a PG movie with the word heroin in it, and it is such a passing reference. It's not like somebody shooting up in the movie. It's just the word heroin. And that is the only thing in my opinion that puts this into a PG-13 place. And that's a bummer because as we've talked about a lot recently, like I am one of those people that trusts the rating, and I would have brought my son with me to see this had it not been PG-13. And I wish I had now. I think this is a movie he would have absolutely loved.
But you can still do it.
I can still do it. I will.
Yeah.
But that's not the point of the rating. The point of the rating is that I can go in without having to do, I'm putting my trust in the MPAA to give me those guidelines that I can rely on. And I feel like that, the word heroin is not.
Jeff, I really would. In the last few weeks, we've discussed multiple instances in which the rating has been wildly inaccurate. I would suggest a site like Common Sense Media, which does a detailed breakdown of like what is wrong. I would, but
it's hard to tell because they don't have that breakdown before we go.
That's
see
true.
Readings,
They don't have those before we go see it, and also. I don't like spoilers, so I'm not going to be reading there's a scene where a guy shoots his face.
Have your wife read it, or Jeff. You know what? I volunteer as tribute. Like, say, hey, Dave, read the Common Sense Media review and tell me what's in it.
I'm fine with that. Again, and I understand, like, take responsibility for your own thing, but the point of the MPAA is to have general guidelines that I can trust. That's the point. And I understand you're saying, well, they let you down. Let's not let me down. How about that? Let's try to be an apocalyptimist here and say maybe we should be able to rely on our institutions a bit more. Like that's what will pull us out of this downward spiral.
I mean, Jeff, you've seen this movie is not yet rated, right?
Yeah.
It's an institution that I think is inherently like flawed. So that's why unless it's like R, this movie's rated R for severe violence, then don't bring the kids. But PG-13 is such a wishy-washy rating at this point. Yeah.
Jeff, you were talking about your nitpicks of the movie, and nothing in my that I saw rose to the level of like it really distracted me. But the one thing that I did have a question about was, hey, humanity has mastered interstellar space travel like without well, that was kind of like yada yada yada. Hey, we're going to build a ship.
Lucky the astrophage is both our destructor and our savior.
Yeah, thank God.
Pretty lucky.
Well, that's also cool by the way, we have technology. We have technology to like go light years away. Even if you're, Whaley Yutani styling like cryo sleeping people. Like
they did blow up a whole bunch of scientists in the process of trying to figure that out, though.
Yeah,
like, it took some lives.
Well, I mean, I think the presupposition is. Everybody stops what we're doing and we all work on this project.
Right.
Right. And so in the years that are covered over through the flashbacks, we like, and we have that awesome Sandra Hüller line where she's like, the ship is not the problem. She's like, and I mean, I think that's what the cool part of this whole concept that Andy Weir came up with is what if this thing is eating the sun and we can literally use it to propel ships in the most efficient way we've ever discovered. Like that's cool. That's a cool idea.
Cool. Right. Yeah.
And
yeah,
by the way, the visualization of the astrophage
Mhm.
is
Love it.
awesome in this movie.
Yeah. Pretty
the
good.
way they
Yeah.
realized that is so neat.
That
There's
and
that
the
one
planet
scene-
itself. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, that and the planet they actually get to as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
All the visualization of the space stuff is amazing.
But that one scene where he is outside the ship and the astrophage is all around him,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, "I'm having a moment here," like that
With the
is
red,
so-
visual. Yeah.
so
Pretty
cool.
cool. Yeah. Pretty cool stuff. All right, folks. Anything else about Project Hail Mary to talk about?
Only an idiot would not let Lord and Miller make a space movie. I think that's where we've landed.
I'm going to say this,
Yeah.
just like Glenn Powell can't stop starring in movies that force him to wear little disguises, Sandra Hüller likes to be in movies that have critical moments set to karaoke that she performs.
Oh yeah,
She's
For those
good.
people who have seen
She's
Tony
good.
Erdmann will also understand what that reference is to. So anyway, that's going to bring us to the end of our review of Project Hail Mary. And at the end of the day, it is really impressive that Phil Lord and Christopher Miller made a movie.
I think I said Ken Leung's name wrong earlier, and I apologize for that.
It's okay.
Nobody corrected me, but I apologize for that.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching this video of the Filmcast. Check out these other videos that we have available, and be sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to get other videos from us in the future.
You can also go to thefilmcast.com to catch all of our audio podcast versions of all of our episodes.
And support this podcast at patreon.com/filmpodcast, where you can sign up for ad-free episodes and exclusive After Darks.
Thanks so much to everyone who makes the Filmcast possible.